This next story is causing a lot of confusion among some investors. This oil giant, British Petroleum, wants to buy Tesla Supercharger sites in the US. British Petroleum is aggressively looking to acquire real estate to scale our network, which is a heightened focus following the recent Tesla announcement. It plans to spend $1 billion by 2030, half of it within the next 2 to 3 years, to install over 3,000 charging points across the US. A key part of the strategy is building large-scale hubs with 12 or more chargers that it calls giga hubs. If there are stranded real estate partners who are looking for someone to call, they should feel free to pick up the phone and call me or look me up on LinkedIn, said a BP representative. BP last year signed a deal to procure about $100 million of Tesla Supercharger hardware, with the deployment expected to start later this year and early 2025. The confusing part about the story was that it came out before Elon Musk confirmed that Tesla will still spend $500 million on expanding Superchargers this year. So I believe Sawyer is definitely right to say I believe this is just BP wanting to buy up the leases and lots that Tesla is no longer building out. Tesla is not selling existing Supercharger sites to BP. James says, I don't think Tesla should sell its US Superchargers to BP. This would be very bearish in my opinion, because it would mean that Tesla concedes that EV penetration has peaked. Could also imply a need to raise cash. They would be better off issuing new shares than divesting this strategic asset. Warren actually doesn't mind Tesla divesting from this business. Supercharger operations are a relatively low margin business with an upper limit on growth. BP is better positioned to maximize revenue and profit from Superchargers because it has great locations and existing stores on site with experience managing them. Let BP or others do that and free Tesla management to focus on higher margin, higher growth businesses. From quite a while ago, I remember Elon saying something along the lines that a Supercharger business was built to produce roughly 10% margins. So assuming that remains the case, I would prefer to keep the supercharging business. But if the number somehow drastically changed, I would be open to change my mind. But I never had any issues with any supercharger. It's just flawless. It just works. So it's a big selling point to own a Tesla for me. BP, however, is looking to hire some former Tesla employees after these layoffs. Looking at the post from Elon Musk, does he explicitly say that Tesla will operate the supercharging network going forward? I don't think he explicitly says it, but I assume he means it. But generally speaking, Omar is definitely right here. If you hear something that sounds just too crazy to be true, like future affordable models are canceled forever or the supercharger network is being shut down completely, it probably is too crazy to be true. $500 million would imply Tesla continuing to deploy superchargers roughly at the same rate as Q1. However, do remember that Elon also earlier said that Tesla would still expand the supercharger network, but at a slower pace. However, this $500 million comment doesn't really suggest it would be expanded at a slower pace. But by that earlier comment, Elon could have meant the expansion will not continue at an exponential rate. It will just be at the rate that we had basically in Q1 or earlier. Thousands of new superchargers will be built with that $500 million. To put that $500 million in context, two of the biggest non-Tesla charging network operators spent in 2023 only $159 million and $19 million in capex. But also keep in mind that if you look at Tesla's previous years, Tesla would grow its deliveries roughly 50% year over year, depending on the year. But this year it's going to be closer to flat. So naturally, you would need less superchargers. In the meantime, a federal judge on Thursday indicated a willingness to compel Elon Musk to testify again in the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's investigation into his $44 billion takeover of Twitter. So Elon is facing more investigations, more scrutiny. One way that they punish you and extort you once you get to a certain level, even if you didn't do anything wrong, just making you testify and waste your time on countless encounters with the investigators. That's punishment alone. Even if they find no wrongdoing, they wasted so much of your time. Whereas writes, Musk's lawyer told the judge the additional testimony would be a burden for Musk and take him away from obligations to shareholders. The judge asked whether Musk should be exempt from securities laws and further investigations just because he's a very busy person who is running multiple companies. Musk did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I wonder if he even saw the request. Ooh, there's some big news here. Biden administration is set to impose tariffs on Chinese Chinese EVs. One way to think about it is, long term, this will hurt American legacy automakers by making them less competitive globally, but in the meantime, it will protect the American market from the Chinese. And on the flip side, if you want to import vehicles from the US into China, you're going to pay some massive tariffs, as much as 47%. So to me, it only seems fair to reciprocate. Tesla Australia has shared a supercharger update. We have heard concerns about recent changes to the supercharger program. The supercharger network is still core to Tesla's mission. The network will continue to be expanded. Projects currently in construction are continuing to be completed and put into operation. However, there are definitely big restructurings going on within the Tesla supercharging team. The whole US team has been laid off. 80% of the China supercharging team has been laid off. Tesla's Model Y 7-seat interior option has been reduced in price to $1,000 from $2,000 in the US when configured with a paint or interior color upgrade. I wouldn't think too much of it because Tesla has been changing the pricing of the 7-seat configuration quite a bit in the last 12-ish months, so I wouldn't think much of it.